Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome again to another live here this morning. And good to have you on with us. And as always, I'll say hello to a few folks. I always feel bad because in the last 2 or 3 weeks, I haven't been able to go on till later on in the day to say hello to folks. Maybe sometimes I even answer a few questions right there on the spot. Lee, good morning. Faye, good morning. Ruby, Marin, 13 others are watching. I don't know if they're all watching at your place. Ruby and Marin. Sue, how are you? Todd, Keith, okay, and I missed a few up here. Nativity and Ronaldo and Louise. Oh, I think they're bunching them up. That's the first time I've ever seen that. Wendy and Carrie and 3 other people. So I don't know if that's new on Facebook. It must be because I've never seen it. Okay, I'll scroll down there and see if Michael from Wawa and Todd, I said hello. Keith, Faye, Jeanette is on with us, and Fran and Amanda and Ezrut and 16 others. Well, there's got to be because we're up to well over a couple of hundred already. On average, and we thank you for this, Pat and Reem, we thank you because of the popularity of the program. We appreciate that. You have no idea. Okay, and we're up to, between the podcast and the Facebook Lives, I think over 2 million views. And we're really appreciative of that. Okay, so we're here for you. We want to answer your questions, and we want to make this show relevant to you. Okay, now I want to continue talking about fat. Okay, fat in the wrong places. So I brought out my fat that I usually leave behind me here. So if you're hearing this on a podcast, I'm showing 5 pounds of fat. Isn't it incredible? 5 pounds of fat. And it's about almost a foot wide and about 4 to 5 inches thick. Very dangerous because fat belongs in your brain. Your brain needs it. Your nervous system needs that fatty myelin sheet to protect the neurotransmitters in your brain. Someone calls you fathead, it's a compliment. You want fat, absolutely. But you don't want fat in the wrong places. And we talked about that the other day, and I just want to reiterate a couple of things, because a lot of people came on after the program when I talked about they had never heard of losing, where sleep apnea is caused by obesity of the tongue. They never knew that. Well, think about for a minute, okay? And I got some statistics here. I just want to read this. I pulled this off this morning. Let me just, wait a minute. Let me see. Where did I write it down here? Okay, just on the statistics of obesity. Here it is, okay? Here it is. Now listen to this, guys. It's unbelievable. You've heard me say this in the past, and I'll say it again. If you had, for whatever reason, decided to leave planet Earth in the 1970s, when I was graduating, let's say 1974, you took a trip to Mars, or you went and lived on the moon, okay? and then you came back in the year 2020, you would be shocked. What would strike you the most if you just went and watched people from, I graduated 46 years ago. What in the world has changed? Well, we're so much bigger. North Americans, well, listen to this statistic. From 2000, I'm not even talking about the 1970s. Just go watch an old movie. Everybody is skinny. But it says just from the year 2000 to 2018, teen rates of obesity, 16%. They used to be at 1 or 2% in the 70s. I don't even know if it was that high. But from the year 2000 to 2018, they went up 16 to 21%, 5% increase. Men, 2000, okay, because already big, to 43%. They went from 27% to 43%, and women went from 33% to 42%. That's in less than a 20-year span. But if you would bring that back to the 1970s, to 2018, you would go from 1 to 2% into the 40. So on average, in North America, it's in the 40% of the population is now obese. That would be striking if you had left the planet and came back. You couldn't get over it. And the problem with fat, other than your brain, is that, well, first of all, obesity, listen to what I'm going to say. Obesity is a symptom. It's not the cause. No exceptions. Obesity is a symptom of metabolic syndrome, and metabolic syndrome is caused by one thing: insulin. Food. Food has changed. Two major changes occurred in the 70s that sent our world into a trajectory of disease. Fat is bad. Eating fat. Eat a low-fat diet. It started in the 70s. It went on steroids in the 80s. And every low-fat, like they even changed milk. And what's happened? The world. Up in Canada, they're talking about another carbon tax. We're taxed because of oil and gas. We use oil and gas, we get taxed. Because politicians believe that climate change is our biggest problem in the world today. I heard a politician up in Canada say it the other day. Oh, this is a perfect time because of COVID to change the oil and gas industry. Carbon. It's not, the biggest problem is in the world is not carbon. It's carbohydrates. Not carbon. Now, I don't know what you think about climate change. That's not my area of expertise. But I'm going to tell you what is my area of expertise. Carboholism. And that's what's happened. And it happened very quickly. Because the whole world went hook, line, and sinker. That fat makes you fat. Fat makes you fat. No, it doesn't. Fat, good fat, saturated fat, animal fat, not vegetable oil fat, saturated fat, cholesterol is what your brain needs. It's what your brain needs. It's a good place to have healthy fat, but not on your tongue. That's sleep apnea. That's why on the reset, hundreds and hundreds have said how much better they are and how little. You see, oxygen, it isn't because Joe Blow next to you, let's say they have to use a machine. Oh, you know what? They just don't produce enough oxygen. That's not true. It's partially true, but I want to explain that in a minute. I'll get back to it. Why? Cause and effect. Cause and effect. So you want to lose fat on your tongue. Nobody, as far as I know, has ever weighed their tongue. We don't think of putting it on a scale. But that's why people get better. And this is why, by the way, we see so much sleep apnea. I mean, sleep apnea in the 1970s, when I graduated, to be honest, we never even talked about it. No, we didn't even talk about it. Now, I'm not saying everybody was healthy and no one had sleep apnea. All I'm telling you is sleep apnea is fat in the wrong places. And fat in the wrong places is caused by insulin. Insulin resistance, high circulating insulin. That's what causes it. 100%. It's not genetics. It's food. And my mission is to undo the lies. It's my mission. And every day, especially with social media, I've got to undo the lies. And even today, generally, doctors are so poorly trained in nutrition that the lies of the 1970s continue even today. Oh, doc, my cholesterol. Every day, I have to undo that. I'm happy to do it, by the way. I'm not mad. I'm not. It's my job. It's my job. So where do you want to lose weight? Where do you want to lose fat? On your tongue. We talked about that. Men, you want to know where to lose fat? Because you see what this does, by the way, okay? It not only increases, so I'm showing the fat again. For those who are listening on the podcast, I'm showing a big blob of 5 pounds of fat that take up a lot of space in your body. What it does is it creates inflammation. Yes, and inflammation creates a storm in the body. Does a lot of bad things, inflammation. It's disease without a fever. But your body reacts to that organ. It looks at that fat and says, that don't belong here. What is that? And it creates an immune response. It's almost autoimmune, and it's not good for you. And it don't kill you right away. It's a slow burning fire that eventually destroys your blood vessels. And ladies, listen, and men too, because I talk about the prostate. You don't want fat around your prostate, men. Ladies, you don't want extra fat around your breast tissue. Why? Because fat elevates your estrogen. Estrogen makes you a woman. It's a wonderful thing, but not too much. And men, no. Men, especially after the age of 50, the worst thing they can do is put on belly fat. Because, the belly fat that you can see on a man, it's also around his prostate. It makes him much more susceptible to prostate cancer. Because it's a double whammo. You can't get the fat without insulin. That creates inflammation. It starts to primarily to destroy the blood vessels around the prostate. Men are up frequently at nighttime. Then that same fat encourages estrogen, and estrogen is a growth hormone. Guess what it does? It grows, grows, grows. Yeah, you don't want that, men. Ladies, I know men don't listen. But you got to try and encourage them to get rid of that fat. It's a dangerous organ unto itself. Ladies, this is why the reset. It'll get rid of that extra fat. It empties the liver. We talked about that. We'll talk about it. I'll talk about that till the cows come home. The liver is the organ you want to empty the most of fat. Because the liver will send that fat that's stored from carbohydrates into your bloodstream as triglycerides. Those are bad fats for your heart and stroke. Still the number one killer in society today. And we're seeing an epidemic of liver cancer. Non-alcoholic fatty liver is an epidemic today. And I don't use that word without telling you it's a terrible, terrible curse on our society today. Fatty liver. Because fatty liver will up your increases of cancer. It's the biggest factor in cardiovascular disease. The number one killer in our society still today. And I'll tell you, one of the things that bugged me about COVID is how we gotten away from talking about heart disease. We got onto a virus and forgot about heart disease. Now, so here's another place you want to lose fat. And there was a new study out on fat in the lungs. It's incredible. Getting that fat in the lungs. You can't see it, but it's there. and it affects your little bronchial tubes. And insulin has a major effect on the lungs, causing shortness of breath. There's where you can get a lack of oxygen. It's probably the double whammy of sleep apnea. Is fat on the lungs. And what have I said that is almost, it's incredible that today, still the number one cancer today. What's the number one cancer today? Lung cancer. What? Still. Followed very closely, and we talked about this, about colon cancer, liver cancer. But lung cancer, imagine, when not everybody got the memo, but most people got the memo. Quit smoking. It was the only time in the 1980s that the war on cancer was actually making a dent. When people got the memo to quit smoking. Did you see the post I put on the Facebook group? Lee, a good friend, sent it to me. I just about died because, it was probably back in the 1940s. The cigarette of choice for pregnancy. It was actually an advertisement. But there used to be a lot of advertisements for smoking. 9 out of 10 doctors choose Camel. Imagine, it's funny. It is funny to think of how everybody used to smoke. In my house, there was a fume 24/7. My dad smoked, my mom smoked, my older brother smoked. I stole a few cigarettes in my day. I'm glad I never got really started. But my dad came home in 1962. I was 10. And he threw his Buckinghams in the waste basket right in front of me. He said, never going to have another one. I said, whose cigarettes am I going to steal, Dad? Not that I didn't like my dad's Buckinghams. They didn't have a filter. I like my mother's Peter Jackson's. Anyway, all I'm saying is, why would lung cancer today still be bad? Some would say the environment. It's true. 100,000 new chemicals or more. We're breathing those in. If I was to analyze your lungs, you got plastic in there. I guarantee it. Everybody does. It's in everything. Is that a factor? I'm sure it is. But one of the big factors is fat in the lungs. It creates inflammation, and inflammation starts to destroy blood vessels. And inflammation is deadly. Yeah. It's deadly. Takes time, but it's deadly. And it's still the number one cancer in the world today. Lung cancer. Now, you can't control everything. You can't control your environment, really. I mean, to some extent you can, and I'm all for that, by the way. I'm all for it. I want clean air, and I want clean water, just like you. Is carbon bad? I don't know. Are cow farts bad? I don't know. I don't buy it. But I know what you can control, guys. And that's what you put in your mouth every day. And fat don't make you fat. Sugars, crappy carbohydrates with vegetable oils. Getting back to lung cancer, one of the worst things is a byproduct of aldehydes. See, that's what cigarettes did. Cigarettes, one of its byproducts was aldehydes. And aldehydes damaged lungs. A big factor in cancer. But today, aldehydes haven't gone down. The new smoking is sugar. Crappy carbs. Those industrial oils that are found in our foods in the middle aisles of our grocery stores. They're highly, highly inflammatory. So where do you want to lose weight? On your tongue. Ladies, on your breast tissue, especially if you're menopausal. Especially if you're menopausal. And I know you're thinking, well, if I'm menopausal, my estrogen is going down. We live in a world, every chemical, including plastic. Your body, you know what it thinks it is? Estrogen. It's called xenoestrogens. And xenoestrogens are dangerous. And you just can't get away from it completely. You just can't. So protect yourself. Try and get rid of that fat. The bad fat. So I always love the reset because it puts fat in the right places and takes fat away from your organs where they don't belong. One of the big things in pancreatic cancer. The pancreas, a pen-like structure, looks like a ballpoint pen, is dripping with fat. Overworked insulin. And pancreatic cancer is another one. I'm trying to think of a cancer that might have gone down in the last 50 years. I was around when President Nixon declared on national television the war on cancer. Boy, it sounded good, you know? But it ended up being like Vietnam, Afghanistan, a war that never ended. Right? The war on cancer. It all sounded good. And the only good thing they did come out with on the war on cancer was stop smoking. 100%. There isn't a doctor in the universe, even though 9 out of 10 doctors chose Camel cigarettes. There isn't a doctor in the universe, I don't think, that would encourage anyone to smoke. So we got that memo. But why have we lost? Every day in the United States alone, 1,600 people will die from cancer. 1,600 and change a day. Add it up, guys. And it makes COVID look like nothing. 365 days a year times 1,600 and whatever it is. I think it's 42 or whatever. people every day on average in the United States die of cancer. Have we won the war on cancer? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We're losing the war. It's like we're in Vietnam again. And I remember Tony's Jr.'s father-in-law fought in Vietnam. And I'm always fascinated, people that go to war and, serve their country. I'm fascinated by that. And the danger, I have never gone to war. I'm in a war every day on nutrition. But, he was telling me you didn't know who the enemy was over there. They were, picking rice during the day and your enemy at night. He said you just didn't know. And this is the problem, guys. We're fighting a war with the wrong tools because we're looking at it the wrong way, and it's hard to change people's mind on this. But I'm trying to get you educated so that you understand it. Okay. We got a great week coming up. We got some very interesting nutritional tips and stories and the news behind the news, the news behind health news. I'm on guard and I'm searching for you. I find it fascinating. Okay, so if you have any questions, if you want them to be handled on Friday, question and answer Friday, we sure appreciate you signing up your friends for the private Facebook group. That really, really is tremendous. And what a group. I was in there this morning answering questions. And I know Brandy and Jeanette and Nicole, they're doing a fantastic job in there. Our staff is so good at that. And every once in a while, I get in there. And I put Dr. Martin here and I answer the question. Okay? So don't be shy. We're here for you. Okay, what a group. Love you guys. Okay, talk to you soon.